Najib Shah, former chairman, CBEC, and MS Money, senior director, Deloitte in India, joining us on the show today. Thanks for being with us, both of you. Let me just start off with you, Mr. Shah, and try to understand, with regards to, what the government's trying to achieve from the latest meet. There are a lot of things that have been discussed with regards to taking up tax evasion, making things more transparent, given that collections are down. What do you feel is the root cause of the problem here?
Well, consistently, the belief has been that invoice matching is something which ought to have been done earlier to prevent leakages. Having said that, the agenda, from what one reads for this 35th meeting, includes a provision for large taxpayers with a turnover of more than 50 crores for having invoices being generated from a common portal, which should be a major step towards ensuring that some matching of invoices will take place for the larger assessees who contribute nearly 65 to 70% of the entire GST revenue. So that will be one step which they will be taking. I think they should also look very closely at expanding the coverage of GST itself for petroleum products to be brought into the ambit. This is the first meeting of the new government. They have a full 5 years ahead of them, so they should not be burdened by any demands for tax reduction at this juncture unless and until there is a need for it. On the contrary, they should look at expanding the tax base itself. I think another major agenda point will be, of course, extending the tenure of the National Anti-Profiteering Authority, whose tenure as per the rules is 2 years and should be coming to an end any time now. And they have been doing an excellent job, and I think continuation is also necessary. So expansion of the tax base, simplification as we go forward, and looking at ways and means of curbing evasion should, I think, be the major agenda points for this meeting.
Right. Mr. Mani, I wanted to get you in on the discussion as well, because the big problem is the tax collections, and one has seen that it's been a rarity that the collections have gone upwards of that 1 lakh crore rupee targeted mark. What is your own sense on what this GST Council meet is going to be focusing in on, and do you think a big focus would be on broadening the GST compliance to begin with?
Okay, so I think what we have to keep in mind is that collections is clearly the overarching theme in this meeting and in several other meetings, because during the last year the collections from GST were much below what the government had budgeted. Over the last 3 months, the GST collections have begun stabilizing at approximately 1 trillion per month. That clearly also is much lower than what the government had budgeted in the interim budget that they presented. So the overarching theme is that whatever measures are taken, these should not be at the expense of collection. Now, the moment we have that as an overarching theme, one of the things which becomes very clear is that the headroom for further rate reductions is extremely limited. In GST, we have to bear in mind that compared to the earlier regime of VAT and excise, on the majority of products, the rates in GST are either lower or they are at the same levels. Consequently, if we keep collections in mind, we need to understand that the headroom which the government has to do any further reduction of rates is very, very limited. At the same time, the overarching purpose of GST was to expand the entire tax base. At some point of that, integrate that with many other taxes such as income tax, and have some kind of a system-led, data-driven mechanism to keep track of who was paying the right taxes and who are the people who are not paying the right taxes. This objective, to my mind, has been achieved only in part, primarily because of the initial problems that we had with GST, where the GSTN portal did not work the manner in which it was intended. We had frequent extensions of dates, we had change of rules as we went along. On account of all these reasons, the objective of broadening the tax base has been achieved to a very limited extent. This is again validated if you look at the number of returns that have been filed month on month. In the last 1 year, it has not significantly increased month on month. So if we keep that as an objective for the meeting, what we have to do is to ensure that there are a few measures put in place so that the people who pay the right taxes do not have to do too much of compliance, and the people who are not paying the right kind of taxes are possibly subjected to more compliance and more investigation.
Right. Mr.
But
Shah,
to your point of do we see more of compliance, I think we are going to see less of compliance.
Okay. Mr. Mani, just hang in there, on that note, I'm just going to get in Mr. Shah as well into the discussion. And Mr. Shah, a lot has been spoken about better compliance. Do you think introduction of e-invoicing for companies with a turnover of more than 50 crore rupees for B2B sales will curb any sort of invasion or evasion rather?
Yes, I think so. But I think the problem really is not so much with the big companies as much as the companies who are below that threshold. But having said that, this will ease their burden of compliance because e-invoices are supposed to be generated from a common portal. And I do hope this portal works effectively. They are planning for a 3-month pilot phase initially, and it should get stabilized in that period. So that should definitely contribute to easier compliance for the bigger companies. And I think the problem really is not so much the big companies who are, in my opinion, tax compliant. It is more with the smaller companies who tend to, for one reason or another, not go through the burden of complying with the requirements of law and hence evade tax. So I think greater scrutiny will be required for those companies.
And Mr. Mani, wanted to discuss that because what the economy as well as the markets are also grappling with right now is some of the key industries which are facing a slowdown, be it autos, be it consumers at large. Do you think that's a very immediate problem which the finance minister needs to address in the GST Council meeting? How do you think they can actually boost demand? Will some sort of stimulus be considered, maybe reducing rates in key products, etc.? Do you think that could also be on board?
Look, reducing tax rate in order to bring down prices and stimulate demand may or may not be the best way of going about addressing the problem of slowdown, because even assuming we reduce the rates of tax for certain set of products, to what extent can it stimulate demand? Because bear in mind that the tax amounts which are embedded in the price of products are only one very small component of the entire product price. And therefore, if there are underlying structural issues that need to be addressed for a particular sector, possibly the focus needs to be there more rather than on the tax rates. Because when we bring down the tax rates, we also bring down the collections. Empirical evidence suggests that there is a very big time lag between the bringing down of the tax rates and the expansion of the demand, which leads to increased collections. Now, in this particular year, keeping in mind that last year we have missed the GST collection target, can we afford to do that is a matter which I think the government will take up very seriously.
Sure. Okay. Mr. Mani, our reporting team also tells us that the meet is to discuss a proposal to levy GST on extra neutral alcohol. That's the other element. Do you think if this does come through, it will be a big negative, of course, as alcohol is not part of GST, and, but the raw material will be a part of it, which cannot now be claimed?
Okay, so this may not be a big negative. To my mind, it could even be a positive, because what the GST law excludes is alcohol for human consumption. Now, that is clearly outside the ambit of the GST law. And by definition, therefore, since ENA is not alcohol intended for human consumption, it can be included. Now, if it is included, what it does is it allows people, industrial users who use this as a raw material in their product, to avail a credit. Now, today they are not entitled to a credit because ENA attracts VAT in each state and the VAT is not creditable against the GST. So, this could turn out to be one of the measures again to broaden the tax base, as we said before. In the past, we have had debates on whether some sets of petroleum products should be included. All of these measures, if taken over a period of time in a calibrated manner, possibly have a much bigger potential to expand the GST basket and the GST collections.
Gentlemen, great to have you on the show, and we'll talk again after the GST meet actually concludes and try and dissect what really transpired for them. I hope most of these measures are indeed considered. But Mr. Mani, Mr. Shah, great to have you both on the show.